Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. The Monday, we had a good first show with Fire Up Florida. Now we have another part of our doubleheader. With that said, we're going to be talking Hall of Fame for Barry Bonds. My goodness, that ought to keep your intrigue pretty quickly. And we're going to talk about Alex Cora, the Seattle Mariners, the Chicago White Sox, although they call them the White Sox in regular life, and Lake Mary, Florida, winning the Little League World Series. With that said, let me introduce the crew. George Eichhorn back for round two.
Yeah, Scott, good to see everybody here. Let's talk some baseball.
You got it. And a man that has 3 rings to show for it is Trent Clark. Welcome back. Show him. Make him proud. Display him.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And the barber.
I'm fresh off of just getting a haircut and starting school. So it's great to be back. I feel like I haven't been here forever, gentlemen.
Well, I'm glad you're back here and not forever time. All right, let's get right to it. Okay, Barry Bonds joined Pirates Hall of Fame, and Jim Leyland also gets in. All right, Mr. Pittsburgh, Mr. Barber, what are your thoughts about Barry Bonds getting in a Hall of Fame?
You know, it was pretty neat. After Bonds got in, Leyland went up into the press box and was talking to those guys. Leyland talked nothing about himself. He talked about the players the entire time he was up there. He has mad respect still for Bonds and all his accomplishments. And I think getting Bonds into the Pittsburgh Hall of Fame, that's great. You know, great. He's up in the circle, he's in the Hall of Fame, whatever, all that stuff. I am a true believer that those guys who broke records and had great careers in the 90s and early 2000s still need to be in the Hall of Fame. And I know we've had this conversation before, and I'm sorry to revisit it, but you know, you can put as much juice as you want in your body, but you still have to go out and perform. And that's just the way I feel about it. But I'm really glad for Barry. He deserves recognition. He's the all-time great, hitting home runs. And what people don't understand about him is what an eye he had. You know, he either walked or clubbed the ball. Like there was not a lot of strikeouts from Barry Bonds. And he was a great fielder too. Like, I mean, he was a really good baseball player, and he doesn't get credit because of the steroid thing. So that's my piece on him, and I'm really happy for him.
All right, to the chat room real quick. Joshua Doerr's favorite question to you is how many haircuts today? All right, there you go. You're free to answer it if you want to. How many haircuts today?
How many haircuts today? 0. I went back to school today.
There you go. And I love Dusty gets into the KFC. Well, at least we know what his favorite fast food is. We'll leave it at that. All right, Trent, Barry Bonds, a Pirates Hall of Famer at least.
Love it, man. I mean, like you've said in the past, Barry Bonds is an amazing player. I mean, like, and you know, the example of juice and getting people, I have a lot of passion about this subject because one, when there's a talented player like that, who by all accounts was far superior than other players in the league at that time. And his fear, like, let's just look at how many intentional walks the guy had in his career, including how many intentional walks he had with the bases loaded. Like, look at that statistic because it's bonkers. And so when you got a guy like this, he's a literally, you know, he's a once in a time player. Like, he's this whole generational player. And, you know, to me, he's the Babe Ruth of his time. And you can't argue with that. My biggest challenge with this, you know, getting caught, the steroid era, was that a lot of players were doing it. I was utterly shocked to hear how many baseball pitchers were taking it for recovery. We knew guys were taking it to hit the ball longer, but I think Jose and Ozzie Canseco were a great example of talent. You know, Jose was talented, could hit a breaking ball. Ozzie couldn't. They took the same stuff. They're about the same size guy. And Jose had a long career, great career, fast. Ozzie was a nice player, but not a major leaguer, a AAA guy. So at the end of the day, man, the juice isn't all talent. And my biggest concern is that in the 1970s, players often went to amphetamines. They often went to greenies, and they thought they were getting performance enhancement at the time. Science proves that, or disproves that later, that amphetamines don't really cause a lot of performance enhancement. But they believed at the time they were getting it. They're not being punished for that at all. So we have all sorts of 70s players that were drug users in some capacity in the Hall of Fame. it's just a tough field for me to say you're going to eliminate these fabulous players at that time.
All right, so let me ask you a question. You really bring up a couple of good points here, Trent. Two-part question. Okay, one, did you read the book Juiced?
I have not.
You didn't, although I did buy it, and I was reading part of it.
I lived the book. I lived the book, man. I was a strength coach in professional baseball from 1993 until 2006. I mean, Juiced, I was living it.
Okay, well, that's a good question. And Jose Canseco, obviously, we all know that he could club the ball, but I think he knew when he wrote the book Juice that he would ruffle a few feathers, and mission accomplished. And he actually opened things up in terms of the discussion, in terms of making people aware about performance enhancing drugs. But the way you answered it was a very fair question. Living it instead of reading it, I'm okay with that. Good stuff. All right, George. Barry Bonds, Pirates Hall of Fame.
Barry Bonds, yeah. Well, that's good to hear about Leland. He's always been that way. He wants to talk more about his players than himself. And Barry Bonds was certainly special. I guess Manny Sanguillen was also honored the other day, too, in the Hall of Fame. I think that's a smart move by the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. As far as getting into the Baseball Hall of Fame, I just don't see it happening. He missed out on the 10 years that he was eligible. And then after that, the Contemporary Player Committee looked at his credentials in 2022 and they turned him down. And that committee that he's eligible under is going to review again one more time his status in 2025. But I'll tell you what, I'm with you. I really am, Trent. I mean, this man had a tremendous career. There was so much of this going on, and I know some of it was caught. Some players were caught, some were not. And you brought up a good point about stuff going on back in the 70s with a lot of our contemporary heroes and that from that era. And I think Bonds realizes that he's got a very small window if he can get in. It's just unknown if he will or not. But I want to end my thoughts with this though. He made a good comment at the end of his sermon. I want to read this to you. He said, Frank Robinson, Joe Morgan, my father, Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, all my black icons are gone now. He said, that's it. It's just me technically. And we've got Ricky Henderson too. He said, we've got some others, but he says, I just hope my mom is still around if anything else comes along in my life. And that's a big if. And of course, he means that Cooperstown, if they give him a call.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Barry Bonds had two careers. Okay, the one in Pittsburgh that I thought was actually impressive when the guy could steal bases. Okay, he steals bases. He was a great hitter and it hits for some power. I think another point, Trent, you made, which was really good, and people don't even understand. If you're walking a guy with the bases loaded, wow. I mean, if that isn't fair, but me personally, I don't think he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. I mean, we're talking about baseball. We're talking about Pete Rose is never going to get in. Shoeless Joe Jackson. A lot of big name people are not in the Hall of Fame. And another thing that went against Barry Bonds in terms of popularity is he didn't get along with the media. And if you don't get along with the media, whether you think David Ortiz was a PED guy or not, and that's subject for someone's interpretation. Okay, he got along with the media, and you don't know what happened there, but he certainly knew how to play the politics. David Ortiz, Barry Bonds doesn't know how to play the politics, and Candy's got it listed right out here what the numbers are. It's pretty obvious. If you want to put them up, you can put them up. Then you cover all of us up, but Trent got covered up if you're high. All right. There you go. 762, 25, 58. Yeah. All right, go ahead. Hey, Candy, why don't you read them? I need a voice to get through the next few topics.
Besides holding major league career records in home runs, 762, walks, 2,558, and intentional walks, 688. At the time of his retirement, Bonds also led all active players in RBIs, on-base percentage, runs, games, extra base hits, at-bats per home run, and total bases. He is second in doubles, slugging percentage, stolen bases, at-bats, and hits, sixth in triples, eighth in sacrifice flies, and ninth in, it goes on, but
That's all
Um,
right.
Wow.
Yeah, ninth in strikeouts, which was 1,539. So there you go.
Very
Good
number.
impressive numbers.
Hey, convince me that steroids got him all those numbers. That's all I'm saying. He
Yeah,
still has
well.
to make contact with the ball. McGuire still had to hit the ball. Sosa still had to hit the ball. You get up there and be as jacked as you want, but physically, but if you can't make contact with the ball,
Yeah, I'm with you, Barber, man. Like, listen, at the end of the day, this is the toughest skill in sports. You know, steroids is not going to give you greater skill. Confidence, maybe. And so I would make an argument for that. But tell me this. How many pitchers are in the Hall of Fame that were well-known, Vaseline, scuff the ball with sandpaper? People have been cheating since Ty Cobb was in the 1800s, right? So we've got like the game has always looked for people taking an advantage of an edge. And when you see stats like that this guy's top 10 and greatest of all time in that many stats, who are we talking about, man? We are talking about GOAT activity here. And it's a tough call for me. And if I had to go back, I'd be like, Barry, why'd you ever do it in the first place, man? You were already a great player in Pittsburgh. I don't understand the logic, but there it is.
Well, listen, he couldn't even get along with his own shadow. What are you talking about? Let me tell you this, okay? First of all, I covered a Marlins game against the Giants, okay? And luckily, Georgia got my credential when I found out about it at the last minute and decided to do Dale Earnhardt driving from the Florida Turnpike to Joe Robbie Stadium and barely got in. But boy, when I got in, it was unbelievable. And when it was all said and done, the Marlins ended up winning it when Ivan Rodriguez had that block at the plate. I had a chance to go in there and talk to Bonds, and I didn't want to do it. You know why? Because he's a jerk. I'd rather go out there and get dosed with champagne with the Marlins. I love them Florida Marlins, what they were calling that. But Barry Bonds is the type of guy that he couldn't get along with his own shadow was what he could along. And if you don't get along with the media, don't bite the hand that feeds you. Okay, at least one thing about the trending is very nice. Put your hand up and go ahead and raise your hand. Go ahead.
I am so for that, and I appreciate that, Scott, as you being a media member. But on the other side of this, as a guy in the locker room, there is a recognition of people in your personal space. Walking out of a shower, there's media right there. I mean, it's an odd gig, right? It's not standard for most people. And I'll say the one thing about Bonds that's very different, and I want people to understand this, and I'm not defending him in any way because I do believe he was a jerk.
Yeah, but hold on one second. Let me just mention one thing, okay?
Okay.
This thing with Bonds wasn't over in the locker room. They had a press conference there, so nobody didn't talk about towels are there, but continue your thought.
Yep, good point. I will say that for the guys who grew up, he's the son of Bobby. For the guys who grew up at the ballpark, Ken Griffey Jr., there was an air of, and it felt like arrogance, but it felt like, hey, I belong here. I've been here since I was 4 or 5 years old, taking batting practice on major league fields. The rest of you are short timers. I'm a lifer. I'm going to be here forever. I've got a special skill set. And I'm telling you, it felt different with those players and I don't know how it is with our young, superhero down in San Diego, but kind of a, you see where there's a trend here with Griffey Jr., with Bonds, with our Padre, and these kids grew up 3-4 years old at the ballpark with dad, and the rest of us are just there for a visit. They're lifers, and they think differently about it.
I want to go to the chat room. Kevin Schmidt has an excellent point, and here's what I'm going to say about Kevin Schmidt. Okay, Bob Costas has gone out there and spoken about what you talk about. They should all be in there and label them as steroid players, and that's what Bob Costas has advocated, Kevin. I'm glad you brought it up here on the show, but Bob Costas definitely agrees with you, and Bob Costas is a baseball labor in every sense of the word. Go ahead, Candy.
I just want to add, Trent, to your point, Barry Bonds was first on intentional bases on balls. As you see what I wrote in there is 688. The next person is Albert Pujols with 316. After that, it's Stan Musial with 298. Wow. Henry Aaron with 293. Willie McCovery at 260 and Ted Williams at 258. That is a huge difference right
Oh,
there.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and it validates Trent's point even more than how many have got walked with the bases loaded. Forget about
Exactly.
intentional walks. Hold it. Forget about intentional walks. What about the ones with the bases loaded? You know, bases loaded, if you walk, does cause you a run, and I'm not losing my mind. I may be losing a lot of things, but not that, or if I am, so what? You haven't heard before anyway. But like the man Trent said, you got walked with the bases loaded and somebody scored a run because you were afraid of Mr. Steroid. My goodness.
Yep.
Seriously? My new favorite word, by the way.
You know, going back to your point, though, Scott, he wasn't only a jerk with the media. I got a quick story for you. My buddy and I were going to a function where there was going to be a lot of professional athletes, baseball players, so on and so forth. And we were in the elevator. It was me, my buddy, and Bonds. And we brought baseballs to have Bonds sign them. And we said, "Hey, Barry, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah." He really didn't want to talk. We said, "Barry, you might sign a baseball for us?" "I don't sign anything in the elevator."
Good.
I looked at him and I said, "What do you mean you don't sign in the elevator? When has anybody ever confronted you to sign?" I'm literally having this conversation with them. When has people confronted you to sign in an elevator that you got that rule? You know,
Every
well, I
week.
don't sign. And
Every week. By the way, every week, Barber. Every week, wherever he goes, people try to slip into the elevator. There are rows of people outside the hotel waiting for a signature. I had the exact same thing happen with Bernie Williams. It wasn't me. It was a little boy who was 8 years old at the All-Star game. There is no one in the All-Star, we're in the Marriott, and there's no one else there. It's a little boy and his mom, and he asked Bernie, and Bernie said no. And I about freaked out because I was the guy walking out with Cal Ripken after he works out every night in Detroit and Cleveland till midnight, and he's in the gym, and I'm like, dang, this guy, man, 162, and he still comes to work every day. And when we walk out, I'm like, "Hey, Cal, I'm in Cleveland. I'm going home. You want me to drop you at the hotel?" He's like, "Oh, man, my fans are here. I got to sign." So when we walk out, there's 110 people still at the ballpark in Cleveland at midnight, and Cal stays and signs for every one of them. If you stay for me, I'll sign for you. And it was his policy. He did it every night.
Unbelievable.
Well, the reality is we need more stories like that, not Barry Bonds, who belongs in the Hall of Shame. Sorry, folks, I'm not drinking the Kool-Aid on Bonds, whether he's in Pittsburgh, whether he's in San Francisco, the only two places that like him anyways. And you can send him to Iceland. Who cares? Although don't worry, he won't have to sign in Iceland because they don't know you're there. It doesn't matter.
At the end of the day, though, you shouldn't be voting with emotion. You should be voting based on numbers.
No, forget the emotions. The bottom line is he's a darn cheater. That's all there is to it. The only point that I've even seen here tonight, only one, is coming from Clark. Walked him with the bases loaded. You might get that much out of me, but you're not getting no more out of me out of this guy. Why do you think I went to the Marlins so I could get dosed with champagne and watch a steroid bum like him who called Balco? I want to hear about the Balco business. Give me a break, Barry. Okay, I wouldn't jump on your if it became going to Afghanistan, fighting in the war, or deal with Barry Bonds. I'd rather fight in a war in Afghanistan to protect my country. Period. Okay, and I'm not. Timeout. I don't know what does that mean.
I need a TO on that Marlins team. There's some players on that Marlins team that beat us in '97 that were later in the Mitchell report and another thing. So don't act like other people were all innocent.
No, but this is 2003. This is the one Miguel Cabrera was on. Forget the '97. They bought that team. It doesn't matter. They bought it. When Wayne Huizinga writes the check, we win. Okay, what do you think, Leland? That was the 2003 team. That was Miggy. That was Rodriguez going to Detroit afterwards. Okay.
That's fair.
But it's okay. They got. Hey, listen. Let's say one thing about the Marlins. They're a punchline with everybody. Okay. Number one, whenever they win, they tear it down. Okay.
2 championships.
Yeah, right. They got 2 more than a lot of teams have.
Yeah.
How many of them haven't even been to a World Series or even won a championship?
Seattle.
You can beat up on my mind. Oh, there's one of them. Don't worry. We're getting to them in a little bit too. Good stuff. Okay, great segue. Boy, I'll tell you, Clark, you get better on every show. It's okay. But the reality of the situation is what the Marlins is this. Kick them around all you want. I remember during COVID-19 when, we're the first team out there that ended up throwing balls inside of a sock when we're the ones. They all laughed at us because we've had such a pathetic history. Then everybody started canceling games because of COVID-19. But pick on us, Marlins. Let's go ahead. We're used to it. We're the punching bag. We're the pinata of Major League Baseball, and we probably deserve it. Because we've had more fire sales, and never mind. You can fill in the blank. Am I getting off subject? I don't care. Who cares? We're talking about Barry Bonds. Anybody can do that. All right. But that said, it's probably the longest topic that I knew would generate the most buzz. Everyone was going. We all knew who got caught. Yeah. Well, bottom line is people can accuse Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire of doing it. But remember one thing, they saved baseball after that deadly 1994 strike that took baseball for 9 million years forever. I'll always be partial towards Sammy Sosa because in 1987, I was the director of public relations for the Gastonia Rangers, a team that lost over 90 plus games. With that said, since we spent 20 minutes on this topic, my voice is getting worked out. We're just getting started, people. Okay, Candy, give us a station break.
You are listening to the South Florida Tribune YouTube channel. If you see that red subscribe button, that means you have not subscribed. I do not know why, but please do so. Share us, like us with all your friends and family. Mondays, we talk hockey before we talk baseball. Tuesdays, we talk football. Wednesday and Thursday, you just never know what we're going to be talking about. It could be hot dog eating contest to the NFL to, who knows, Olympics. You got it. We're covering it Wednesday and Thursday. Go to our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. On there, you can see the writings of Scott and George. You can see my pictures. You can see all kinds of plethora of college sports down here in South Florida. Transcripts from the Dolphins, the Jaguars, the Lions, you name it. Go there, check it out. We also have a link to our online store there. But we also have a link to a book that the South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published last December called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by none other than Scott, the Motor City Mad Mouth Morganroth, your host tonight. He talks about his 40 plus years in the business and how it has changed. George Eichhorn wrote the foreword. There is actually a picture of young Scott and young Muhammad Ali. Go get your copy today to find out what he looked like back in the day. It's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kindle, Apple, and Google Books as well. And just so everybody on this panel knows, Mark, you're slacking. And the reason why I say that is Scott wrote a book, George wrote a book, and Trent all wrote a book. It's your turn now.
It's my turn, huh? Google Docs.
Yeah.
What'd you tell me, Scott? Google Docs? I need to break it down on Google Docs.
Let me tell you what. She told me how to do it on Google Docs. If I can work on Google Docs, I know you can do it because I'm god awful.
I work on it daily.
It's idiot. Let me tell you, Google Docs is idiot proof. That's why I can do it.
Back to the program.
Hey, Candy, tell me about, I thought there was a big coverage of a game this weekend. What's going on the South Florida Tribune?
We actually have got coverage. We're coming to you live from the swamp. We are going to be up in Gainesville covering the Hurricanes playing the Gators Saturday afternoon football. We got you covered.
I'll tell you something, Trent. Maybe there's hope for you in this broadcasting thing after all. Getting with you. This guy's
Big
well established.
Game. Big game.
That's it. If I need a play-by, I'll be the play-by-play. You can be my color analyst. How's that sound? How many people have
Love
had
that.
Hey, yeah, let me tell you something. Everybody on this network's waiting for him to have one topic that he can go off on. And it never happens it happens every one time a show. Sometimes Eichhorn makes it easy for me to smack him around. This time I had Barry Bonds himself, so good stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about history in a different way. Tonight, Alex Cora, the Red Sox manager, has announced Danny Jansen will substitute for Reese McGuire at catcher, who is not even on the current roster. Get this. For the resumption of the 6-26 game with the Blue Jays, meaning that he will not only become the first player to play for both teams in the same game in MLB history. So he will become the first player to play for both teams in the same game in MLB history, but he will catch the at-bat that for himself and must be pinch hit for. You know, the one thing I love about baseball, you know, Trent, I'm leaning off with you on this one, okay? Right when you think you've seen everything, you haven't. And this is definitely one of those examples where you're never a time you go to a band. I've never seen this that before. I don't know of any sport that could be like this, Trent. And if you can find me another one, then I'm definitely open ears.
Matt, this is going straight Pictionary, right? Like, who's the guy who caught for himself in a game against himself in a game that took over 4 months, to play? It's so cool. Baseball just has this thing in history that just sets it apart from everything else, and it's exciting to watch. And it's fun that you get these little intricacies of the game. And I love that the manager's leading in. Joey Cora realizes, like, hey man, this is different, right? Like, this is just our Alex. Is it Alex then? So and he just realizes that this is one of those unique moments in sports, in time, in history, and he's taking full advantage of it, and I love it.
Unreal. What do you think, Barber?
I mean, we did talk about this just a little bit, and I read it today. They actually made more of a fuss about it today, about this happening. I think it's probably one of the more unique things we'll ever see. From that perspective, like, the only thing I've really seen that's even close to that is, like, a guy will be playing on a hockey team, and he'll play Thursday night for one team and then Saturday for another team. That's about as close as I've ever seen anything like this. But this is so unique. He has a chance to beat himself. That's the way I see it, and I'm really intrigued by it. I think that's the perfect word to use. It's very intriguing, and you may never see it. We probably will never see this again in our lifetime.
I say probably is not the right word. You never will see it again. But all right, Eichhorn, we'll leave it to you. That way, if you decide to get off topic, you'll have a chance, but at least the other two went before you.
Well, first of all, the game is over. Okay. So 4 Toronto, 1 Boston. So Jansen was 1 for 4 as a Blue Jay in the game. And as a Red Sox, they're saying he was 1 for 4. So I think it's very misleading, because I don't think he had 8 at bats in that game. I think the box score, whoever wrote it, I think that's misleading, right, guys? It doesn't make sense to me. He didn't have 8 at bats, 4 for each team.
Right.
But I guess maybe that's the way the Major League statistical, Elias or whatever that does the stats.
Right.
All this is saying the one thing that I think is cool, like you guys touched upon, is that, hey, this is uniqueness. This is baseball. Manager Cora had some fun with it. And, hey, it's all on the up and up. If he wanted Jansen to catch, he wanted to put him in the game, that's his choice. I think it's great. Guys, it's a bit of history. Have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I think some collector is going to pay $800,000 for that box score.
That's right. That lineup, the lineup cards too. I forgot about. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something, Trent. When you start coming on more and more baseball shows, then I'm strongly kicking the tires of making you a regular on the baseball show anyway. So don't get me started, because I probably will if you keep making comments like that. And we'll find other ways. So we'll continue to allow you to promote your book on this show. Only you'll have a lot more going for you with this, as well as the other shows that you. One thing about Trent, okay, this guy's one, like everybody on this platform, one of the most versatile people, and he doesn't say a word. He's never complained about nothing. But the reality, and I appreciate that, Trent. People that don't complain, they just go where we assign them. But let me tell you something. I'll be surprised with how much you want to bet that the Hall of Fame is going to be calling for some of his stuff there to put it in that museum, because Mark and I were both at the Hall of Fame at the same time. And Mark, let me ask you a question. When you were there with your son and I was there, didn't you notice, let's talk about what Kevin said before. I think they had a special exhibit they acknowledged the steroid people in there, didn't they, if I remember right?
To a certain degree, they talked about the era and some of the people that were involved in it. I think the Hall of Fame is probably one of the more unique places, because any of those Hall of Fames. It's so unique because a guy from my hometown that I knew, Mickey Morandini, played for Philly. He had that triple play. He's never going to be a Hall of Fame plaque guy, but he's in there because of his triple play. I think that's really good that you can recognize people for that kind of thing. That's why I say guys like Bonds and Sosa, McGuire are they're recognized, but not fully like they deserve.
Well, you sit there and go there, but the idea is, whatever that happened is, Danny Jansen will probably be getting a call from the Hall anyways. Let's see what glove or whatever you want to put in there. And by the way, since I'm going to get on the Hall of Fame kick, okay, I'm still going to say this until I don't have a voice left. Don Mattingly belongs there, period.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
all I can say. And I'm going to leave it at that. Okay, so let's talk about the Seattle Mariners. If you're going to let somebody go, not so sure this is the way you want to do it. The former Seattle Mariners manager, Scott Service, who was part of the organization for 9 years. Get that, 9 years, okay? Found out he was fired on X Twitter. Now, okay, Trent and I continue to go at each other. He says X, I say Twitter. Twitter! He's got X. Twitter! All right, let's keep it going. George, how would you like to find out that you were long gone in the eyes of Ernie Harwell because of X or Twitter? Can't get me there.
No, I would not like to find out that way. That's very unprofessional and very childish to do it that way, if that's exactly what happened. This guy, like you said, served a great tenure, had a great tenure in Seattle, has got a lot of respect as a manager, and Scott Service did not deserve that kind of treatment. So whether it would happen in the middle of the season or not, you still got to handle it with class. When you dismiss somebody, you're dismissing an employee. I mean, it's just not the right way to do it. You shouldn't have to find out on social media something that concerns you, your welfare, your job security, or whatever. So no, that was a bad way to handle it. He's going to find a new home. He's a good man. He's got a good baseball mind. Scott Service will land in a good organization. Trust me.
Hey, all right, Trent, let me ask you this, okay? Where does this situation stand in the wonderful world of leadershipity, let alone your thoughts about it in the first place? We might as well incorporate leadershipity in there.
Thank you. Yeah. I mean, listen, when we talk about the 80s of leadership, it starts with integrity. What kind of organization is going to allow the leak of the information without telling the man himself? And I am in George camps on this. Like, Scott Service was a very high quality ball player, came and did the job every day. And sounds like, a pretty good manager. They've had some nice years in Seattle in these last couple of years. They're kind of knocking on the door, becoming a significant contender. And then all of a sudden you're going to do this guy like that. I just think it's bonkers that this stuff goes on, that someone doesn't have the wherewithal to actually just take a step back. And I get mistakes are made and information can be leaked and all sorts of things, but it was on their account, right? Like, this isn't like someone else threw it on X and made an assumption. So, at the end of the day, it's a bad look, man. And and I find it embarrassing that leadership. Now, what I will say, when we talk about leadership, we have seen some pretty poor examples of leadership in our country. We've seen some pretty poor examples of how we're going to bait and switch information, how we're going to lie, cheat, and steal to get ahead. And I'm telling the young folks are paying attention and they're watching. And you know what? Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. My guess is that these kids are missing the boat and they're modeling some crap behavior of some of the leaders that have already been out there. And I just, what I expect? Be better, America. That's what I expect.
Okay. Well, let's go to the chat room. Candy Evelyn added a little clarity on the Jansen situation. So, George Eichhorn, you get the task of reading it.
Okay, what it all added up to was Jansen becoming the first player in MLB history to play in the same game for both teams. He finished 1-for-4 for Boston with no official at-bat for Toronto. Thank you for that clarification. The official scorebook and various other items associated with this unique moment in MLB history will go to the National Baseball Hall of Fame in Cooperstown, according to the Red Sox broadcast.
I knew it.
Thank you,
Candy. I knew it. Didn't I say that?
You called it, Scott.
All right, Meredith, what's your take on the Mariners' way of doing things?
I'm not going to address specifically Scott Service. I'm going to address professional sports in general. It's a business, and they don't care about you. They don't care how much time you've invested in them, how much heart, how much soul. They push you right out the door if they don't think you're doing your job, and they bring in the next guy. And it's a multi-billion-dollar business across the board, and there are feelings hurt there, and people are mistreated, and good people like Service, just like you guys said, just because he's at a down point in his career, this is the way you treat the guy. It's just not fair. But That's just the way it is today. Trent, you hit the nail on the head. We look at leadership in this country today, and we see piss poor leadership. It's just a reflection of everything else that goes on here, whether it's professional sports, entertainment, education. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, in the words of The Rock.
All right, let's not forget one major thing here that can't be overlooked. Seattle Mariners had a long playoff drought, correct? And who was a manager that broke it? Scott Service.
Yeah.
Conversation over. Period. I think
22-year drought. You're right, Scott. 22 years.
And Scott Service will be a trivia question, as he was the one that broke it. And he gets X'd out of there. Quitter. That's all
I think Barber hit it on the head, though. What have you done for me lately is the mantra in that business, right? And I was there. I saw it. Like, it is more than evident that that's how it goes. And it is a lot of big money going through. And I think some poor decisions are made based on a lot of different factors. But this was obviously a pretty poor decision.
22-year playoff drought. And this guy went out there and snapped it. And guess what? This is what you get. But you're right. So what have you done for me lately? All right. So now, with that said, we'll go ahead and continue on. Chicago White Sox are the second fastest team in modern era to lose 100 games. Oh my goodness. Is that the OMG that they usually put the abbreviation in all these chat things that I don't know nothing about with all these abbreviations? I don't know, Mr. Clark.
I'm embarrassed for them. I mean, it's a great baseball town. It's a great city. And man, it's funny because it's obviously the really poor performance is known over in the Northsiders, right? As many years as they had a drought, right? Before Joe Madden came in and helped things along there. But I'm just shocked that they seem to be trending in the right way. I'm just thinking just 2-3 short years ago, you had, a longtime manager that had tons of success in the major leagues, having issues over there, getting them on the edge of the playoffs. And now, man, it's frustrating. There's nothing wrong with that ballpark. There's nothing wrong with the fans, and not to be able to put a good product on it. This is where I would like to see a little bit of the English Premier League. Like, I would love to see teams get relegated. Like, I would love to have something in the game that says the Chicago White Sox are going down and Charlotte is getting a major league team. Buffalo is getting I'm telling you, there's some great AAA parks in Louisville, Indianapolis, Salt Lake City. These would be great major league towns. Mm-hmm. And so why not? I would love to see that happen.
Let me tell you, we used to have a commentator on here, I won't mention the name, that used to come on here. He built his name with a petition trying to get baseball to Charlotte. And you know what I used to tell the guy? I get your sales pitch, but the bottom line is, unless you got a major league ballpark, you're going to stay in AAA. Yeah. But he did good work for us. But after a while, the expansion thing gets old if you don't have a ballpark there of at least 30,000, which is what I think they're going with these days compared to what they used to. So. I agree. But it is bad baseball. You hate to see a team go through it. The Tigers went through it, and the Baltimore Orioles went through it way back. But man, it's there. The only thing I can say for the next White Sox manager, good luck. All right. Go ahead and Mark.
You want to talk about 100 lost teams? I can tell you about some 100 lost teams. No, I'm going to go with the White Sox having had guys in the organization that were semi-young, mid to late 20s, and I'm not sure why they didn't want to pay them, and they sent them about their way. And they've been doing this, and this is how you deplete your team. They don't even have that strong of a minor league system that they're building up. Going to Trent's point, though, it's all about the money. It's all about the money. Without any kind of, at least spending floor, and forcing these guys to spend that money, I think it's always handicapped baseball. And that goes to that point where you said about the Premier League, where, they relegate him back to La Liga or whatever. I firmly believe that. Pittsburgh should be playing in somebody's backyard as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, the bottom line is there's no reason for any professional team to lose 100 games ever.
That,
I
let
don't
alone
believe that. I just don't believe that should ever happen with professional athletes.
let alone that fast. All right, let's go to kneecap biting. Got a few good comments on here, so was trying to get some Twitter comments. Had to come on here. Thanks for coming on kneecap. By the way, let me point one thing about kneecap. He's done a really good job with Candy Ebling and Ralph Williams on Fire Up, which appears on Thursday night. These three do make a great team. Hope you can join them. They usually bring that show on about 9:30, somewhere around there. So Candy's got a good thing going there. Kneecap says, I feel bad for the city of Chicago. At least they have the Cubs. Oh, wait, they're not that good this year either. Why don't you make them feel bad? All right, good evening, gents. All right, George. I think everybody said their piece on this, so go ahead.
Well, my hometown team, the Tigers are 8-1 against the White Sox this year. So they have contributed heavily to the demise of the White Sox faithful. I mean, this franchise is just, it's really bad, like you guys have hit upon. I mean, you got a city, one of the biggest cities in America, and they definitely should be able to support two teams. But those two teams have a stake in it as well, and they have to have good scouting, good drafting. Like you said, Mark, I mean, their farm system's got to be up there. They got to be among the top in the league in order to contend. Anybody really has to have a good, solid farm system. You don't even hear people talking about their prospects, the White Sox prospects. I don't know where they're going to go from here. I really don't, but it is a disgrace. I agree with you guys. I've seen it. I lived through it. As Scott knows, I lived through it with, of all people, Alan Trammell. That was really sad that one of the greatest Tigers of all time had to manage that team. But that's another story. But I'm just saying that this has really been a disaster for the South Side and the White Sox. Yeah.
Well, it's one thing to lose 100 games. It's another to lose them that fast.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I got a question for you, Scott, Motor City Madmouth.
It's all right. Bring it on, Trent.
If we're going into September, I mean, we're talking about at least 29, 30 games remaining. So, I mean, I think Seattle set the record once upon a time with 116 or 117 wins. What is the loss record? Because these guys are probably flirting with 125 right now.
Let's call on our crack statistician. Go ahead, Scott.
Well, number one, I think the Mets lost 120, and the Tigers are buttoning, and that was way back in the day. So, they're going out there and they're actually flirting with that record. Smoking Jeremy B says, quick update. That Chicago's leading the Tigers shoot on top of the 6. Well, maybe a final score right then, but at least the guy's paying attention to what we're doing. So kudos to him. I want to say 120, 122. I don't know, but knowing Candy Ebling, she'll come up with it anyways.
They got a solid chance to break it.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, you'll be on here when they do. Like I said, one of the things I've kicked around here as I continue to juggle crew members is Trent Clark's massive baseball background going to make him even more regular here on the broadcast. And yes, I was right. 1962, New York Mets, 120 losses. That was the year I was born, by the way. How about that? 1962. 120. There you go. You just got the question. Thanks to our crack researcher.
7 years later, there was a miracle in that town.
Yeah, no, that's true. How many losses? How many games are left with them having 100 losses? Gosh, I want to say at least 30 or so. I don't have my math calculator on here.
Money was different then, Trent. Money was different then. Guys weren't jumping teams.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you, what the thing is any team. Okay, Robert Wardell, thanks for joining us. 116 tied with Cubs. Unfortunately for the Mariners, they didn't finish the job. The manager of that team, I believe, was Lou Piniella. They got off to a sensational start. I thought for sure the Mariners going to win it. I mean, this team, I saw Smoking Jeremy B says 52 games after tonight. Thanks a lot for bringing that up, Jeremy. Appreciate you answering your own question. Okay, so now Candy Ebling, this is the 6th time in franchise history. George, you read the rest.
6th time in franchise history, the White Sox have lost 100 games. Oh, my God. It happened twice before MLB expanded in 1961. First in 1932, they lost 102, and then in 48, 101. Since 61, it has happened 4 more times. Oh, my God. 70, they lost 106. 2018, 100. 2023, 101. And now 2024, sitting at 100 so far.
Yeah, they're gonna
That's
blow.
that's bad news.
Yeah, they're gonna blow those records and out of smithereens. Hey, Ralph Williams, thanks for coming by here a little
Hi,
early.
Ralph.
We started the show off with the Pirates Hall of Fame just in case. So hopefully you'll be able to watch it on our network. But we talked about Barry Bonds getting into Pirates Hall of Fame. Then again, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if he's in the San Francisco Giants Hall of Fame, but if he isn't, he'll probably get in that one too. Not sure.
He
Should
should.
be.
He should.
He should. Why not? I mean, there's only 2 towns that really love him. The rest probably don't. But we'll leave it at that.
Man, Barbara,
Right.
when you talk about relegation of the Pirates, the White Sox would be in Double-A by now. These
Yeah.
guys they'd be playing somewhere in the, what's their Double-A team? I'll tell you who it is. It's the Birmingham Barons. They'd be playing with Jordan down in Birmingham.
There you go.
And the Birmingham White Sox, because the Birmingham Barons might be the big club then at that point. They'd reverse roles or something.
Well, let me ask you a question, Trent. Did you know that Michael Jordan played for the Birmingham Barons?
Of course.
Did you
Out of a
remember?
nice bus
Yeah, well, that's all right. You remember who the manager was?
of the Birmingham Barons? Of course.
Who?
Tito.
There you go. Okay, well, I just thought I'd ask.
I was my first year in spring training. Was
Oh.
Michael Jordan spring training with the White Sox, and I was with the Tigers. I'm out there in left field during warm-up, and Michael and the Big Hurt come over to talk to Cecil Fielder, and I felt like I was standing in Fort Knox. I was like going, "Hey man, Michael's worth like $40 million a year," and between the endorsements and the salaries of Cecil and the Big Hurt, both of them were making over 10. And I think I was making about $1.64 an hour. And I was like, man, what am I doing in this crowd?
Well, I can only imagine what Michael Jordan was like on those bus rides, though.
Yeah, well, who's going to play cards with that guy? Because you can't afford the ante.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
can own the bus. He
Yeah,
can find
really.
him drive. But hey, you know what? Some of these guys like to go in there, live the life no matter what. You can have all the joys and privileges of first class travel, private plane, but whatever. It doesn't matter. But yeah, all right. So now we got Smoke and Jeremy be on a roll. Good stuff. They have a chance to shatter 120 mark. Tigers almost did it with Trammell. Yeah, but the key word, what you said, Smoke and Jeremy B, is almost. Almost as close as horseshoes. They didn't do with this one. Okay, thankfully. Okay, then only reason retired is he was going to be suspended for gambling that season for 6 stuff. Meanwhile, he's in the NBA. He's got 6 titles. Go figure. All right. Well, we're going to go from bad baseball to great baseball. And this is a very good feel-good story, too. It really, really, really is. Lake Mary, Florida rallies past Chinese Taipei to win the Little League World Series. Lathan Norton, who, by the way, had 102 fever on Saturday, raced home for second base on an overthrow at first as Lake Mary rallied to once again beat Chinese Taipei 2-1 in 8 innings to claim the title. This is Florida's first title in 9 opportunities. Chinese Taipei has 17 championships. And I know they used a ghost runner there. So, George, what are your thoughts about Lake Mary, Florida winning it all?
That's great. The kids have really played hard. I mean, both teams were just really very successful. The international pool, as you will, and Chinese Taipei played really well, 2-1 in 8 innings. I know it was kind of a bad play there at the end, unfortunately, but Lake Mary's got nothing to be ashamed of. They had a great season, and the thing that really surprised me, though, was the fact that that's the first one of any team from Florida in history. When you think about Florida and all the great products that have come out of Florida sports, especially baseball, it's amazing that they never won the Little League World Series. But congrats, hats off to Lake Mary. You did a great job, and all you kids should be proud that we're in that tournament. That's a great, fun thing to watch.
What are your thoughts, Trent?
Well, I mean, I think one of those Florida teams had Sheffield and Strawberry. Like back in the day, they had a couple of guys on like when they were like 12, right? And so, there's some good baseball that's obviously out of Florida. It's incredible. I mean, I was shocked to hear that Taipei has 17 championships. I mean, what a powerhouse that they produce these kids. I'm going to need to see some birth certificates. I think they've been sending 17-year-olds over, but I think that's a super impressive deal for Taipei. And yeah, I tell you, I love the manager's sentiment, man. He really brought in their faith and had a really distinct moment out at the Little League World Series that I thought was really cool, a spiritual moment. And he shared it with the kids right before the last inning and said, like, hey, man, this has been written. This is for us. We're going to go do this and we need to go execute on it. But I got the word straight from a guy, and it was just like such a powerful story. And yeah, you feel terrible for a kid. Like, and who knows whether second baseman didn't cover the bag, they covered the wrong bag, but the kid not looking and throwing it aimlessly, is obviously after, by the way, pitching an unbelievable game. I think this thing about sports is I have a love-hate with, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, when I say Billy Buckner, man, everyone goes to the error that he made for the Boston Red Sox. And I ask people all the time, hey, who has more hits for the Boston Red Sox, Billy Buckner or Ted Williams? Because most of us probably know that answer, and most people don't know. Buckner was always a great player. And I'm telling you, man, to be remembered that way stinks. And I hope this kid goes on, big life ahead of him. And, that's not the only thing in his life that's an event. So that young man, like, hey, keep your chin high. What a great game. And on to the next thing.
All right. Trent, you a couple more good points. You're really on target with my brain tonight. And of course, how many times we're working together? A lot more. This guy's trying to read through my head. I don't know what the heck's the matter. He's trying to get ESPN from me. Seriously. Case in point, number one, I'll never forget the time in an American government class over in high school. Okay. And, the instructor would ask different trivia questions just to mess with the class a little bit. And he mentioned a question about who won last year's batting title. And I raised my voice, Bill Buckner of the Boston Red Sox. Everybody looked at me, wow, you got that one? Yeah, this guy's a heck of a hitter. Bill Buckner, how many times has he won batting championships? Yeah, just because you have an error. That it's the error. What people don't understand is that cost them the game, but there was Game 7. They could have redeemed themselves there. And that's the thing that you'll never get looked back. As far as this kid is concerned, making the error, you know what? Let's not lose sight of one thing with the Little League World Series, okay? These are kids.
12.
Come on, get with it, man. These are kids. They're 12. We're trying to anoint these kids as though they're 18 to 20, 25. They're kids. But when I made that thing that in Buckner that he ended up going out there, well, everybody's head got up. Well, I didn't even know that. But when you follow sports when you're a kid like I have all life, and I'm watching Major League Baseball game of the week every week and following it all, and I have aspirations to get in the media, it's a different situation. I like kneecap biting comments. Not like Trump. It's like me using his psychotic levels, the highest levels almost when we talk football MCM. I like this guy. Oh, you already earned a new fan already, Trent. Don't worry. Because when Smoking Jeremy B buys your book, and you will be on the hook to buy that book, okay, Smoking Jeremy B, which, go ahead, put it up there, and then we'll turn it over to Mark. Go on. Give you enough. You're going to promote it twice anyway.
Leading winning teams. Go get it. It'll be great. Barber, let's hit it. What do you think?
All right, what do you think? Look at this guy. Keep it up. Good stuff.
Purest form of sports you can watch is watching the little kids, okay? Watching the young kids. Just thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoyed any sport like that. I watched the day before, I watched the U.S. Championship, and that was just so fun to watch. It was the same as the final, but I mean, I just like watching the kids make those plays. The excitement, the joy, they're overwhelmed. And you know what? You hit the nail on the head, Scott. They're kids. They're kids. They're expected to make those errors. Multi-million-dollar professionals are not expected to make those errors. You make those errors as a kid. That's a memory. Okay, they lost that game, but that's a memory you can't take away from them. As a young athlete, you can't take that away from them. And it's just win or lose. And I know you want to win, but win or lose, just getting to that point is amazing. So hats off to those kids, and go out and get the next one. Is what I always say. Go out and get the next one.
All right. You know what? Snowman Multimedia, thanks a lot for joining us. Appreciate it. He's actually invited me to come on one of his shows at some point. Give me a second. I'm glad he joined us tonight. Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame period. Well, again, you're not alone thinking that way, Snowman. So I'm glad we got your comment up there, and I hope you feel better. I've known Snowman for a while. He's had his fair share of battles with cancer, and this guy is the biggest trooper I've ever seen in my entire life. So keep it up, you and your wife. They're good people out there. We need more people like you. So back to kneecap biting with Motor City. I'll just say kneecap biting Little League is where the last time they have a pure love of the game, and it's an honor for these kids. You know what, Smoking Jeremy B, I could not agree with you anymore. The love of the game are the key words there. Like, come on, folks, these are kids. I mean, they just are. I mean, you know, what are we going to sit here? I don't think you annoyed them to Bill Buckner status. I mean, I remember one of the best Little League players that ever played the game was Sean Burrows. Sean, everybody heard of him? The son of Jeff Burrows.
Third base. Yep.
Yeah, unfortunately, he recently passed away, but I don't want to get into that. But here's a guy that ended up, how many guys in the Little League World Series made the big leagues? And what was the meaning of last week's game when we had the Tigers and the Yankees out there? The Little League connection with the big league, to me, is just unbelievable. And when you see it become climactic like it did, and let's not forget, we're talking Chinese Taipei folks that won 17 of these things, and Florida's only won one. But forget about all the different teams in the United States, okay? Whether 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. The Chinese Taipei has won 17.
Yeah, they've had great teams.
That's
for
the
years
part
and
that's
years.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
I mean, where's Chinese Taipei in the World Baseball Classic? What do they go under? China? I don't even know. And what about when they talk about the Olympics back in 2028? Where are they going? Well, of course, many of them being the big leagues before then, but still. I mean, Chinese Taipei to me is like Manchester United in soccer. I mean, they're legendary in their respective sports. And what do I know about soccer? Enough to tell you Manchester United is good. And once upon a time, they played a game over at the Big House. But Chinese Taipei, I think the one thing that I heard, though, the other day was the sportsmanship that both teams acknowledged each other at the end. That's the one thing that can't be taken away from all of this, okay?
Right.
Kids acknowledging kids. That's why we're bringing this up. We touched on it a little bit earlier in Fire Up Florida because it was a Florida topic, but I wanted to spend more and more time on it with this group here. But, you know, no matter what we do, and I probably am a broken record by now, they're just kids. Yep. And if you're going to lose on an error like that, then so be it. Okay, go ahead, Trent.
One more comment. I think the most highlighted thing should have been the fact that when the kid beamed the kid in the head, the pitcher, I don't know if you guys saw that, and he ran in there and he knelt with him until they came and took care of him, and he stayed with that kid. Like, that is sportsmanship. That's what you want to see.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'd say, you know, two things that I loved was one, the Florida coach running out and hugging the pitcher after he threw that ball away, because he knows how much that hurts. That's not the kid's intent, right? It's a bad decision. Great, but like, hey, he's a great athlete and he's got lots to be, like you said, Barbs. I mean, it's just so many accomplishments for this year. Don't ever hang your hat on one thing. I pray that Scott, the Motor City Madmouth, and the South Florida Tribune is covering that parade in Florida, because I would like to be at that parade in Florida. And as much as I love, you know, your Florida hockey team and would have enjoyed that parade, I would rather go to that Little League parade, because I think that would be incredibly awesome. And I like the other thing that Barb said was, man, these kids were so fired up. I really like the major leagues coming over for the Little League World Series and playing the game. I like the kids all behind when the batters are hitting and they're doing their things and the thing in the batter's box, and the kids are doing it with them, man. I just think, and by the way, no parents down front. Parents, you sit in the back. All the kids get to be up front. And I just thought that was just like Little League Baseball for this event, these 2 weeks, they are firing on all cylinders, remembering what's important here. And I really honor that and admire the way they've done it.
All right, let's talk about the way coaches handle athletes, okay? And Trent, obviously, you're going to have about a minute or two to promote your book. And I'm going to keep quiet. If I will know how to keep quiet for those 2 minutes, because you're going to make sure I do.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, well, that's okay. It does happen. I said 2 minutes. I didn't say 2 hours. Okay, remember. Okay, so remember what I said. It may be off a couple of digits there. But the reality is in 1982, I was at the Final Four. What about that errant pass by Georgetown? I'm trying to remember who it was. And John Thompson controlled the player. This is what coaching and players are all about, right?
Yeah. That's
We're
right.
talking about a young player being controlled by his coach. I probably
Yep.
should remember who the player was. It's not me memorizing the player. Folks, sometimes you remember the player, not it's remembering the moment is what it is. Remembering the moment.
Yeah.
And everything we talk about on all of these shows is attributed to moment. Just remember that. Because you know what? I'm going to tell you right now that we have to live every day as if it were our last. We never know when tomorrow's going to be taken. And the reality of the situation is tomorrow's not guaranteed.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
but you know what? When we go watch these little leaguers, we should always appreciate them no matter what. Because what I can tell you right now, I played 6 years of Little League baseball and loved every second of it. I love catching too because I knew all the angles how to get in people's heads. And I can only imagine when Trent and I have talked about this. In fact, I'll say one thing here before we turn over to until we wrap this puppy up. But, you know, Louis Durante, the Marlins PR guy, knows. He says, I know you're still waiting for me to get you a catcher, aren't you? You know it, brother. Because he knows that I love interviewing catchers because I played that game and I knew how to get in the heads of the umpire, the batter, and my pitcher. And I knew if there was a rule or a way for me to take that extra step, I was going to do it. It's all about the edge. And don't worry. I mean, I believe in Louis. He'll give me that catcher sooner or later. So with that said, as we get ready to wrap up the show, anybody, any last comments about the Little League from any of you?
No, we've had a little bit of success here in Michigan. We had Taylor won a title a couple of years back, and then another one. Scott mentioned Burroughs, but there's a guy named Art Pinky Deras, Deras, who won with Hamtramck in Michigan back in the late 50s, and he was also one of the greatest little leaguers of all time. Art Deras, he got the nickname Pinky. Couldn't make it with the St. Louis Cardinals, though. He couldn't make it in the pros. But what a great legend of little league play, Art Deras. God
Great
bless you
reference,
up there, Art.
Great reference to George. Andy's been on point all the time. All right, with that said, as we get ready to wrap the show up, George, why don't you let everybody know how they can get a hold of you?
Okay, you can follow me on the South Florida Tribune website, where my column is there under Motor City Tribune. At the end of my column is a link to get a copy of my book called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. And Scott is in that book, along with so many great guys we know and love, Ernie Harwell and Ray Lane and Van Patrick and George Blaha. The list is miles long. And anyways, you can follow me at gicorn@yahoo.com and on X at SandGSports99. Also, I'm into LinkedIn a lot. Send me a note there if you want. And you can follow me too on Instagram as well. So good to be part of these shows. I enjoy it, and great having you all aboard tonight.
Okay, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, well, you can find Mark Maraday, the barber, at Original Sports Podcast with Mark Maraday. We are on every platform you can go to as far as social media goes. We drop our show every Thursday. Just had a live show on Saturday where we talked NFL preview, talked about highlights of every division and every team. We have a show going off tomorrow night that won't be out till next week. We're going to do what's called a time capsule. So we will be choosing who we think will be the league MVP and all that kind of stuff. But we air every Thursday. We're on YouTube. We're on Roku as well. And our show goes live on Roku's now. They moved us to the 7 o'clock time slot. I'm pretty happy about that. So check us out.
Great stop. And also want to mention the barber does a good job sharing our content on Twitter as well. I know he's been away for a while, but, you know, we appreciate what he does on social media. I know, get that X out of here. You know, I hate it. But you know what? Twitter, forget about it. Trent Clark, the floor is yours. Talk about leading. You're the author, also the third author in this.
Yeah, thanks so much, Scott.
Leading winning teams. The floor is yours.
I'm the CEO of Leadership at East, serial entrepreneur, member of EO. I have spoken over 17 countries, and my new book, Leading Winning Teams, with Wiley Publishing. Super excited about having a big event, book launch tomorrow on Tuesday, October 20. What is that? 8th, 7th? I don't even know what today is. I think it's October 27th. And so I'm excited about that. Bring a bunch of content, bring a bunch of just fabulous leaders on for some one-on-one interviews. Going to be a great day. I am the host of Winners Find a Way podcast, featured every Friday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 9:30 a.m. Pacific. And that is live on all the channels, YouTube, Facebook, and LinkedIn. And you can find our podcast on all the major networks. We are a top 3% downloaded podcast now with over 25,000 downloads a month. So check us out. Leading Winning Teams is the book. Winners Find a Way is the show. I can't wait to see you next time on 108 Stitches.
Well, you'll be on here more than you'll know. Mark my word. Once I get them in my head, everybody knows that doesn't go away that quick. All right, Candy, take us home while I have what little voice I have left.
So Scott, without his voice, wrote a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is George wrote the foreword. Look at, he's even got a copy in his hands. Look at that. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and Kindle. It talks about Scott's 40 plus years and how the industry has changed. You know, Scott can talk. Well, he also can write. So go get the book today. We also have a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where you can see other articles that Scott wrote, George wrote, my picture taking. You can also, there's a link to our online store. Go get some South Florida Tribune merchandise today. If you like to listen to podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, you can also get our podcast. Monday nights, we talk hockey on Fire Up Florida. Then we talk baseball. Tuesday nights, we talk football on Inside the Pigskin. Wednesday nights is Sports Exchange. Thursday nights is Fire Up. It's time to get fired up, everybody. But we talk Sports Exchange and Fire Up talk. Nothing is off limit really, except maybe politics and religion. But everything else, anything goes. On Tuesday nights, you can also catch me on Three Chicks or Chicks and Salsa, where it's just us chicks talking sports. It's me, Jen, Megan, and Carrie. And you check us out tomorrow night, 7:30 Eastern. Scott, what else would you like me to talk about today? If you want to sponsor a show or advertise, please call Scott 954-304-4941. If you missed any of this, either hit rewind and watch again or rewind and listen again. It scrolls along the bottom ticker throughout the show. Back to you, Scott.
All right. Well, like I said, Trent and I have been having an awful lot of fun with the X-Twitter stuff either way. And the reality of the situation is, this broadcast is actually being aired to my South Florida Tribune Twitter as well. So, but meanwhile, enjoy having this group here. Everybody that I have on this network brings something to this show. And if they didn't, they wouldn't be here. And I am proud to say that I am surrounded by some of the best people I have ever worked with in 45 years in this business, and that's what makes this industry fun. As long as I have people like not only who I have tonight, but around the network, I'm going to keep doing this until I can't do it anymore. So we hope you've enjoyed this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. There probably won't be one next week because I'll be up in Gainesville, but we will return in about 2 weeks on Monday night. So Candy and I will be covering the Florida Gators and the Miami Hurricanes from the swamp. So our programming, just stay tuned for updates on our social media platform. So on behalf of George Eichhorn, Trent XM Clark, leading Winning Team, the book, and Mark, the Barber Maradine, who has more hair than, never mind, and yours truly, the Motor City Man. I want to thank you very much for joining on this edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We will catch you the next time. Have a great weekend. More importantly, enjoy your not Memorial Day weekend, Labor Day weekend, folks, and be safe. It may be Labor Day, but I guarantee you it's not going to stop people from eating. So I don't know. Who should I know? I don't miss a meal. Kidding. I want to get into eating stuff. But anyway, take care, everybody, and we will catch you next time on 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. Good night now.